Hi guys, Olive here, and today I am bringing you my Young Professional TBR. As you may have guessed by the sporadic nature of my content posting lately, I have found a full-time job. I am in the business world now. So as is the case with pretty much every single change in my life, my first instinct is to find books to read on this new avenue I'm going down. So I have compiled a list of 11 books, some of which were already on my TBR, that I think will be beneficial in the coming months to navigating the waters of my new career. I want to be good at my job, I want to see professional growth, and if these books can help get me there, all the better. The first three are really about human behavior in general. The first being The Power of Habit, Why We Do What We Do in Life and Business by Charles Duhigg. I am fresh off of a move and obviously have now made this career change, and I really want to focus on developing better habits. And this book is about habits, where they are in the brain, how they work, how to break habits, how to develop new ones. Seems like it's a bit self-help, a bit science, psychology, sociology. It just sounds fascinating in general. The next book is called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. This is kind of along similar lines to The Power of Habit. It talks about the fact that there are two different systems that drive the way we as humans think. The first is a fast and emotional, intuitive response system, whereas the second is slower and more logic-based. So from what I understand, this is a book that examines the two types of thinking and then will delve into their effects on the decision-making process. From my understanding of the synopsis, I think that the author believes that the second, slower and more logic-driven style of thinking is preferable. So I think the book is going to talk about how to focus on that style of thinking, how to harness its effects, and downplay the negative effects of the first style of thinking. I tend to be more logic-driven as it is, but if I can be learning any sort of technique to make better decisions, especially at this critical juncture of my life, then I certainly want to do that. The next book is called Moonwalking with Einstein, The Art and Science of Remembering Everything by Joshua Foer. This is another mixed bag kind of a book. It's a cultural history of memory, kind of an anecdotal story of Foer's own experiences in the world of competitive memorization. And it also includes tips from the ancient ones to the modern ones on how to best memorize things. From what I can tell, Foer did multiple interviews with people who have had unique experiences dealing with memory. This is going to be kind of a humble brag, but there's really no way around it. I have an exceptional memory. I always have, and it has been one of my biggest assets, really, in life. It has come to my aid many, many times. I would love to learn more about the science behind memory, which I think this book is going to cover, and if I can improve my memory at all, so much better. So those were the books really on just human behavior, human psychology, but these next two are really about productivity, the first being Getting Things Done by David Allen. Of course, I'm referring to the updated 2015 edition, I think it is. This one is an absolute favorite over a book riot. It is essentially a guide on how to be more productive. And I'm pretty sure the bottom line of it is write everything down. I think it also includes tips on how to not procrastinate. And anyone who has ever sent me a text message in my life knows how much I procrastinate on little unimportant things. Someone will send me a text message and I'll say, oh, that was nice, I should respond to them. And then I never ever do. So if I could stop doing that, that would be great. And also if there are any tips in there that could help me stop mindlessly browsing the internet, I would also be appreciative. The other book on productivity I want to read is The Checklist Manifesto, How to Get Things Right by Atul Gawande. The simple checklist is a really unappreciated art form, but it's one that I use a lot, pretty much in my everyday life. They're very simplistic, but they really have a way of helping you manage larger and more complicated tasks. It is my understanding that this book contains a lot of stories about how a simple checklist helped manage just that, a large and complicated task. Like I said, I think the checklist is really unappreciated. I think they really have a place in every single field. I am sure that I will be utilizing them in my career. There is nary a day that goes by that I don't use one when it comes to to-do lists or grocery lists, but if this book could give me ideas of how to use a checklist in a revolutionary way, I think that would be awesome. Next are the books on career growth itself. The first of those is So Good They Can't Ignore You: Why Skills Trump Passion in the Quest for Work You Love. And this was written by Cal Newport. There is an idea, at least in the United States, that if you are not working in a job that brings you infinite happiness, that you are failing at life. And then there's the pervasive and quite frankly annoying phrase, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I think people have really unrealistic expectations of work, and the concept of the dream job is really, really overinflated. Having overflowing passion for what you do is good in concept, but I really think it's more important for you to have a really solid skill set, to work hard, and to try and be progressing within your career. I'm pretty sure this book argues just that. I did sample a little bit of this book earlier in the year and didn't quite have the time to focus on it, but I think it's very, very important for me to be reading this now at the beginning of this new career. Then there's The Episodic Career: How to Thrive at Work in the Age of Disruption by Farai Chideya. My generation is facing a much, much different job market than of the generations that have preceded us. Finding and keeping a job is much more difficult since the global recession, and sticking with one employer throughout your entire career has pretty much gone the way of the pension. It's just not in the cards for us anymore. But then what happens to our career growth if we're constantly uprooting ourselves and moving from employer to employer in order to seek out professional growth? This book talks about that and talks about how you can still navigate your career even though the truths for us are different than they were for our parents. And next is just a downright classic, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. This book was published in 1936 and is still in print, which I think speaks to its pervasiveness. I've needed to read this book for an epically long time. I think people of our generation might see reading this book as kind of corny or beneath them, or that you have to be some sort of socially awkward or just asocial person to get anything out of this. But given the way people treat each other on the internet, I think everyone should give it a read. I consider myself pretty good in social situations, but I, like many people, can find them awkward, or rather I find myself being very awkward. It would be really nice to have some more tools in my tool belt of how to deal with people, especially since I deal with people more frequently than I did prior now that I'm in an office. And then oppositely, the next book I want to read is called Thank You for Arguing: What Aristotle, Lincoln, and Homer Simpson Can Teach Us About the Art of Persuasion by Jay Heinrichs. I think it's very important in your life and certainly in your career to be able to speak effectively, speak persuasively, be a good negotiator. I think this book specifically focuses on persuasive language because this author has a very strong language focus, which I am totally on board for. So the next two are kind of focused on my field. I am obviously in the business world, so reading books on those specific things would apply to me, but not necessarily to you if that's not your field as well. The first one is actually one that I already own, so I don't have to check this particular one out of the library, but it is The Ascent of Money: A Financial History of the World by Niall Ferguson. This is, just like it says it is, a financial history of the world, the evolution of money and finance throughout human history. This is one I've wanted to read for a really long time anyway, and I think it's very important that I do so now. And the last book I want to read, I think, is potentially the most important of the books on the list, and that's The End of Alchemy: Money, Banking, and the Future of the Global Economy by Mervyn King. Mervyn King is a former governor of the Bank of England. This is his newly published book that covers the banking system, principles of banking and central banking, and also his insights and his ideas on how to reform the banking system so that we do not again face a global recession like we did nearly 10 years ago. This is not one that I would recommend to anyone who doesn't have a business or finance or economics background, because From what I am reading about the book, it is in very elevated language, so if you don't understand that, you might want to read something first to prep you for it. This one I think is going to be a really challenging read, certainly a very important one in understanding our global economy. I have recently picked it up on audiobook and I'm really excited to get started with it. So those were 11 books that I want to read in the coming months now that I am an official young professional. I would love to hear if you've read any of these books, what you think of them, or if this video has inspired you to want to pick up any of these books. Also, I would love to hear if you've ever read a book that has helped your career in some way or helped you understand human behavior in some way that has helped you develop better habits or grow in some way. Of course, you can leave any thoughts, ideas, or comments in the comment section below. I'm also reachable in a variety of places on social media, which I will link for you in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.